All right.
Pat, you can just jump right in and keep going.
All right, I'm very much like Scott. I'm going to walk around, so I'm going to see if I can't get this thing to work. Can anybody hear me? Yep. All right, good. I'm going to start with the title slide. There was an intention here by titling it Mobility, What You Need to Know. And this sort of peels off of what Scott, who was just up here, was talking about. Across the industry, we're seeing this age gap starting to form, where you're seeing a whole lot of knowledge in your industry looking to retire, and you don't yet have who that legacy is going to be handed down to. What we're seeing is that we're bringing in a lot of young people. We've had some concerns about these young people coming in with expectations. You know, not necessarily wanting to get out in the woods, not want to get dirty. You know, they're very, very comfortable with technology. Very comfortable. If any of you have nieces, nephews, grandkids, children, they grew up on mobility technology. That's what they're used to having. We've set up here before my presentation some of the mobile technology that has persisted over the last 15 to 20 years. My children wouldn't know what to do with that. The term brick really actually applies to these types of technologies. There we go. So my name is EvanSchwartz. I've been with Baywood Technologies for a decade, but I have been in the technology industry for almost 30 years. So I have literally had the pleasure to see technology evolve in this very rapid industry. I grew up at a point where my computer had 4K of memory. Any of you know anything about computers know that's not a lot. That's not a lot at all. And these things weren't that much better. How many have one of these? I'm hoping everybody raises their hand. All right, as a second show of hands, how many of you describe this as a pain in your butt? I'm sorry for you guys. It's coming. It's already here. It's happening, and it is what the next generation of employees are expecting. They're pushing this drive, this initiative, that they want stuff pushed out to them to their device. They don't want to necessarily be tied to a desk to get information, right? They don't. So we've begun moving this information technology into mobile capabilities, whether it's tablets, whether it's, I see some people up here with some Surfaces, or whether it's your phones. Ultimately, if you haven't gone to a mall and seen the average young person with this thing stuck to their face, or them leaned over like this walking through the mall, then you don't know what I'm talking about, and this presentation's not going to mean a lot to you. But if you've been to a mall and you see that nobody talks to anyone anymore and everyone is feeding this machine, then you get what is coming. So what do we need to know today to prepare for that? We want to make sure that as this new generation of workforce makes it to our companies, that they have tools that they're already trained on using and that they can be productive in our business. So security is a big deal. And we're working with a lot of you already. So a lot of you guys are our customers, so you already know that Baywood's working with you, and you're already having a very mature and developed mobile plan. If you don't have a mobile plan in your company, start thinking about it, because this is really pushing out further and further. We've got mobile devices now in the woods where they're cutting on the tracks, recording the data, recording lat long, getting information further and further out to the endpoint. Authorization setup, contracts, purchase requests, whatever you call them within your organization, we're finding that the foresters are wanting to make these deals while they're out there looking at the material, while they're checking the capacity, while they're doing their cruises. They want to be able to make that deal and get those trucks hauling. Some of you may actually experience the problem that there's a truck on the scale and the deal hadn't been put in the system yet, and we can't get them into the facility. So we need to be able to streamline that process. Trucks and mill. That is a huge topic over the last couple of years. What's the turnaround time? Not at the way in and way out. I need to know when these trucks arrived at my property and when they left my property. And like I said, this is being pushed further out to the woods. Now we want to know when they left the track, when they landed on your property, when they weighed in, when they weighed out, and when they returned to come pick up another load. So that's the creating of the load tickets. We want all of these systems to talk to one another. Right now, we do not have 100% coverage in mobility. We just don't. But every single day, another tower is going up. Every single day, we get a little bit better at connectivity. Every single day. We're saturating the world with our ability to pull data and push data from anywhere. And then supplier information. So I want to know what I have paid for. What's coming into my facility? What's my capacity? What's my inventory? What's my recovery rate? I need to know that stuff. If I made a deal with you, are you sticking with it? If I asked for 100 loads, did you make it? Did you do it? And I want that pushed to my phone. I want to be able to pull it up and drill into it. That's what Pat's going to talk to you about. That's what he does every day. He checks on his guys with a mobile app. So what we're looking at is a proliferation of not just data being fed to me, but a tool that allows me to push data back into the system. And that's where it's starting to be that full life cycle of information. If I can feed the machine data from anywhere, locality stops becoming important. Things that I can get, like the lat long of the track that's being cut on, starts to open up opportunities for me. Endangered species initiatives can now start being automatically driven. I don't have to have a whole bunch of human involvement. Once that thing is cut at that point, an alert can pop up and tell that person, sorry, we've made a deal. We're not cutting in this area. We're not cutting this type of material. We can start to push things out. We're putting mobile devices in the skidders. Tablets right up there for the loader operator to work. So we're able to push this information out. It has to be a two-way street. So this is about building a mobile strategy. If you're not giving value to your loggers, to your suppliers, in addition to getting value for you, you do not have a winning strategy. Why is this logger, other than draconian, I'm going to beat you over the head if you don't do it, why is he wanting to use this, right? So there has to be value. The fact that he can track his loads, that he can manage his drivers and his trucks, there's value for that logger out in the woods to have that information near real time. Allows him to make some business decisions. One of the things that we're pushing out is trucks and mill information so I can get some turnaround times, but also the mill can now send announcements out to my suppliers. Crane just went out. Would that be useful to one of your suppliers that you don't have the ability to receive those roundwoods, or do you want them to wait until he's arrived or send trucks to your facility to know that? Maybe you can reroute him to one of your other facilities. So information allows you to make these decisions. So the first thing is, why do you need it, right? We're going to have a lot of people like, this is so much easier to do on paper. What is it for? Well, it's not so much the data that you're putting into the system, it's the questions you're asking of the data. I had the pleasure of talking with Mac and people at lunch today talking about how data can be really misrepresented if you do not see the whole picture. So if you see data that is 2, even 3 days delayed in today's climate, it's worthless. I'm not able to make actionable decisions about what's happening in my yard, inventory, or pricing if I'm 2, 3, 4 days stale on my data. I need my data. So the number one reason is why it doesn't need to be mobile is because the data isn't here. It's not where I'm at. I have to call and get it. Now there's one school of thought is I could work the phones, ask questions, hand jam it all in. That's very verbose. Or I can move the device closer to the edge where the data originates and distribute that data entry so I can have near real-time data. What needs to be put into the system? What needs to be mobile? So we ask our customers this question all the time. We do not do what you do every day. So if it wasn't for our customers and our partners, we wouldn't know what to build. You tell us, I need to be able to see my loads. I need to be able to see them by supplier. I need to be able to break them down by contract. I need to be able to break them down by track. I have things going on. I have to make decisions. Information needs to get to me. So every one of you probably in this room have some way of looking at settlements, large volumes, multiple hundreds of loads a week. Do you need to see all of that to make your decision, or do I need to see a summary of that? Or can I drill down? We have to keep in mind, these things are getting smaller and smaller. I'm wearing a watch right now. It mostly tells me that I'm overweight, is really all that it gives me right now. But I expect that it will give me useful information later. So I'm wearing this device. Wearable technology is coming, and the next generation of workers are going to be very, very comfortable with it. So you need to ask yourself, what do I need to be out there? What data am I collecting, and what data do I need to see? So this is probably the most important question, because you're going to have two people in your organization when you sit down and think about your mobile strategy. The first person is, they don't want it. It's a new piece of technology. It's a new fangled thing. It's just one more thing that can break. I don't want it. And the second one is going to want anything mobile because it's mobile. They don't care for the sake of technology. You're going to have to find that middle ground. Who actually needs this data out there? Who needs it on their phones? Who needs to be able to put data out there? That's the success of the mobile technology. Using technology for the sake of technology, it's not valuable. And cost. Is it worth it? Trying to navigate the nice-to-haves as to what I actually need to run my business is probably the most important question above who needs it. I need to know how much is it costing me to do. Now, with every week that passes, building mobile applications is getting easier and easier. The topography between, is it an Android, or is it a BlackBerry, or is it a Windows, or an iPhone, all of that is melting away. A whole industry of mobile apps built on a single platform that can be distributed to everything, from a tablet to a PC to a phone, is available today. So it's not going to cost a lot, but there is a cost associated with it. Part of the cost that most people don't figure out, let's say that you want an app out in the woods for your loggers to use. And you're going to put it up there in that skidder, and he's going to load it up, and he's going to plug in all his loads. And as technology has been known to do, it breaks. Who does he call? How does he call? Where is he going to get the support? You've got to think past the functional part of mobility and understand the cost of supporting a mobile application. There is a cost to it. And that's really your heaviest cost, is once that application is in the wild, trust me, you'll become hopelessly dependent upon it. And when it doesn't work, it's going to be, well, what do we do now? So those are the big parts and pieces for a mobile application, a mobile strategy. Why do you need it? Who actually needs it? What is it? And how much does it cost? Any questions?
Yeah, do you have these devices in skidders now? Or
We do. We have several pilot programs in action today.
What kind of security would you have that your employees might not be feeding your information to a competitor for some reason?
That's a great question. So how do you stop eyeballs from looking at data they shouldn't look at, right? How do you do it today? What stops your employee from printing out a report and taking it home?
They don't have access to print one out, you know. I'm talking about the woods, people in your woods, people in your office, a little bit different. But
Okay, fair enough. So if you're sending this out to suppliers and vendors, again, it all comes down to compartmentalization. What do they need to say? They need to see their own data. Who cares if they see their loads? They know about their loads, right? So that should be all they should see. And it's truly about compartmentalization. We're working on a variety of security plans right now for our mobile strategies, and the one that seems to be the most successful, we call it distributed security, distributed administration. You, the owner of the company, you vet your suppliers. All right, so you know them, you do business with them, you've got contracts. You set them up. They can log into the application, and what they get to do is they get to set up their loggers, because they have contracts and they pay those guys. And they configure what they can and not see of their stuff. And then their loggers may go in and set up the trucks, because they may have a separate, they may hire contractors, they may have 5 or 6 trucks. They'll go in and set up their own trucks. Because what we're finding out, if a logger can see everything, then maybe truck driver A is upset that you're giving him the short route, and truck driver B is having to take an extra 25 miles. So we've had to compartmentalize that data.
If you ask any, well, for instance, I use contract truckers.
Okay?
If I were to put GPSs in their trucks, that breaks that contractor, that relationship. In other words, they no longer considered contractors; they fall under the employee category. What would that do using this system the same way? You follow me?
I'd have to look at your policy to be able to answer that question specifically, but the truth of the matter is the difference between you putting a GPS system in the trunk and using their phones to not necessarily track every step, but to track where they picked it up and where they dropped off is most likely not going to violate the policy. 2 reasons. 1, they can turn it off. They have to accept to allow you to track them, and they can disable it at any time.
Policy would be the federal government. That's who you got to worry about. Who tells you whether they're...
But you're not tracking, you're not tracking speed, you're not tracking turns. You don't know if he went to go see his girlfriend on the way. You don't know. You just know he picked it up here and he dropped it off there.
Still be a good question to ask the attorney, though.
Right. I agree. Yes, sir.
The biggest need that I see right now with this data would be to stop some of the repetitive tasks that our offices are handling right now. Whereas we're getting a load security tag, unload, it leaves the woods, we go get unloaded, and it has the tear weight and all the gross and all that weight. And then you turn around and it comes back to my office and the secretary has to re-enter the data into our computer system to be able to get all that stuff to match. And it takes 3 people in our office to handle the 600 some odd loads that we run over.
Sounds like a great cost justification argument to me.
So is there any way that this mobility can go not just from the woods to my mobile device, but back to the mill where we're getting real data coming back all the way back around where we don't have to enter it?
That's exactly what it does. Those trucks, they tell you what they're bringing. They know who they are. They know everything about it except for their weights. They come into the facility with a single number. Either you can do a side print on their holster kind of printer like you've seen at FedEx if you want to do that, or we give them a QR code, barcode right on the phone. They scan it, or they can use NFC on the phone. There's a lot of technology to support it. They literally get on the scale, swipe, get off the scale. They're done. All the data is captured. There's 2 options. So you've got a highly connected set. So everyone knows that you've been out in the woods and you can't get a signal, right? I mean, you're bound to hit it. We sneaker net through the phones. So I plugged all that data in on the phone and I brought it with me, and all of the data is in the barcode. So I can scan it. So I know everything. The other option is highly connected, goes up and down. The data's already been sent before the truck arrives. So now with a very simple number, I know everything about that load. It opens up opportunities for what we call remotely manned. It's not fully unmanned, and it's not a full-time scaler. It's just remotely manned. It's just someone making sure that your trusted agent out in the wood, he's double bunk versus something, he's putting the higher priced one in there. Clearly it's treetop. Just making sure that he's honest. We tie our systems to camera systems. With each one of the transactions, it takes pictures, it overlays graphics onto it, ties all that to the ticket, all that information goes up. From a chain of custody and audit, you literally know everything about that load, and you have supporting evidence besides just the trust you have with your contractor to know that. So you do have to have those sort of checks and balances in place.
So what does this technology cost? I mean, is it astronomically expensive?
It is not. It is not. I mean, I can have you talk to somebody offline just to see what your specifics are. There's a different cost in hardware depending on the number of scales, number of applications you want to run out there. We have a variety where a lot of our customers own this application in-house. So we license the code to them, and they take it and they put it on the App Store, and it's under their banner, and that's the way it goes. And we have customers going, I don't have all that. I need you guys to do it. Can you just push it up there and just feed my system? So then all we're doing is we're putting a connection point. So in this case, when it comes to price, the devil's in the details. But it's very attainable today. You're not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I may get a little confused, but when these loads are going to the mill, these truck drivers are doing these applications on their phone.
Potentially. In some cases, we all know this, not every truck driver is equal, right? You're going to get that smarter than the average bear truck driver out there. We all know him. And he may show up at a site early, get in the skidder and load his own truck and go. That guy is able to log in and do his own thing. Most of the time, it's the logger on site, maybe the skidder operator. It comes down from a case-by-case basis, but it could be the truck driver, yeah. Anything else? Yes, sir.
There's been conversation about, with Fleetmatic's type program, where you've got access to all this data, that you've got to have a program in order to monitor it now, because you know what's going on with the fleet, whether that's speeding infractions or something. There
Right.
has to be a procedure in place. Have you all had discussions, since there is all this technology out there, about those folks that don't have technology, they'll then be negligent because they haven't accessed it?
I hate to tell you this, but in a lot of cases, it's the exact opposite. Because you have the data and you know whether they're doing it, now you're culpable. So what we try to consult with our customers is it's retention policy. What are you retaining in data? If you want to actually track that truck and see if he went to go visit his girlfriend on the way to the mill, you're tracking a lot of data. Our system will read in a CDL license as a way to get in as a gate pass and get a CDL license on the way out as a once in, once out type of system. We safeguard. You can pull all the information off of that license, or you can just pull that license number and use that as a strong credential. Two things are happening. You're not checking whether or not it's expired. Because what happens if you do? You may have just sent a guy with an expired CDL out onto the road. So in that kind of case, you really kind of work with your own legal counsel. All the information's there. My recommendation is maybe not all information is equal. Don't track things that you aren't going to police. It's called governance. And if you put a governance rule in place, you better be able to enforce it. Creating a governance rule that you can't enforce really puts you and the people that you're trying to put governance around kind of in jeopardy. And there's some liabilities around that. If you're not tracking any of this, how am I supposed to know whether he's speeding, right? We don't. So it's kind of the other way around. Anything else? All right, Pat, you want to come on? Thank you. You want to use it? Yeah.